Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Dead Space, Final Fantasy, Demon Souls, Metal Gear Solid. Everywhere you look right now, another classic game or franchise is getting rebuilt, remastered, or completely remade from the ground up. And if you listen to the internet, people kind of think they already know the reason why. Gaming ran out of ideas, or developers got lazy, or everything is just nostalgia now.
Look at that! It's like a bison's penis! What is that shit?
But honestly, I think that explanation misses what's actually going on. When you look at the industry, remakes aren't just lazy nostalgia bait. In a lot of ways, they might actually be one of the smartest moves the gaming industry is making right now, and I'll explain exactly why. AAA games didn't just get bigger, they got dangerous. And what do I mean by that? Well, a AAA game now isn't just hard to make, it's a massive financial gamble. These games take years to make, hundreds of people, and insane budgets. We're not talking millions of dollars anymore. Some of these projects are pushing hundreds of millions of dollars. The game has to succeed because there's no backup plan or funds left if it doesn't. If a game flops, it's not just a bad review and we move on to the next project. It's layoffs, entire teams dissolving, studios aren't allowed to just miss anymore, or jobs don't just disappear. The studios get closed down. Games completely disappear. We've already seen it happen time and over again. And this kind of leads to my point of why we get so many remakes and remasters now. Because when budgets and risks are so high that new ideas become a problem, because a new IP has no safety net, no built-in audience, no guaranteed sales, no proven formula, you're asking a company to bet the bank on something unproven. So what do you think companies are going to choose? A risky new idea or something that they already know works? This isn't about being lazy, it's about minimizing risk. So that's exactly why remakes start to make more sense. Remakes don't just make money, they solve an actual problem in the industry. I think studios keep going back to old games not just because people remember them, it's because the foundation is already there. The core design of the game has already proven itself and you already know people liked it. You're not guessing what works, you already have the answers. So instead of inventing something from scratch, which is risky, you're just going to refine something that already worked, improving systems, upgrading visuals, modernizing the mechanics. Taking what was good and making it better is honestly just the smarter bet nowadays, and it lets teams spend more time on execution instead of experimentation, when experimentation can be very costly. Less room for mistakes and more room just to add polish. So when you combine those reasons and factor in how expensive games have become, then you understand why a lot of studios keep going back to what they know already works. I feel like we can look at this in one of two ways. The industry is being lazy and reusing games, or the way I choose to see it, which is not that it's reusing them, it's that it's reviving them. Many times the remakes or remasters are about bringing back a dead franchise back to life that has been gone for a long time. Some of these franchises that you're seeing getting remakes and remasters weren't just old, they were literally gone. Not talked about or not easily even playable, not even a part of modern gaming anymore. Then one remake drops and that can change everything. Suddenly people are talking about that franchise or that IP again. New players discover it, old fans come back, and the whole thing comes back to life. Think about old franchises like Crash and Spyro that went from nostalgia to mainstream for a bit again almost overnight when their remastered games came out. Resident Evil has been dropping gems, but their remakes are a large part of what brought that franchise back to as big as it is now. Dead Space became available for a whole new modern audience, although I know that didn't do as well. But you can look at something like Shadow of the Colossus, which is one of my favorite games of all time. That got brought back and brought to modern audiences and became popular again. Demon Souls got brought back to life. Many games that were just completely lost to time were revived to a whole new batch of players for them to discover and enjoy. There's countless games that fall into that same category of being completely undiscoverable to basically all modern audiences without their remakes or remasters coming about. And this isn't just recycling content. It's giving entire franchises a second chance. Because without these remakes and remasters, a lot of these series would just stay dead. no new players, no new games, no future. But instead now they get a new shot, and if people are receptive to it and actually open their wallets for these games, then companies notice this, and that leads to my next major point: accessibility. Quickly first, I just want to say thank you for coming back to hang out though. This community's been growing pretty fast lately and comparable for the last couple months, and the channel's been doing really good, and it seems like it's starting to take off, and YouTube is starting to understand what to do with the content. So things have been working, and I really appreciate that. So for everyone that keeps coming back and leaving nice comments and sharing the videos around and all that, I just want to know and let you guys know that I really appreciate it, and thank you. That's really feels amazing when people are receptive to stuff that you choose to make and they enjoy it. So that's super cool. And thank you again. If you're new here, my name is Patty. We take a look at the broader video game industry as a whole, and we also spotlight games that I feel like kind of have a bigger conversation around them beyond just like a basic boring review. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, hit the like and hit the sub, and come back and hang out with me again. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get back to the video. A lot of people seeing these remade and remastered games have never played them before, which is what I'm talking about when I say accessibility. Most modern gamers aren't going to go back to retro stuff like that. They don't have the hardware, they don't have the access, and honestly, a lot of those games just don't really hold up the same. So without the remakes and remasters, they were never even going to touch these games or franchises in the first place. So for a huge part of the audience, this isn't just nostalgia, this is their first time. So when these games sell, companies are watching very closely because it tells them something way more important beyond just, oh, there's nostalgia and interest in the old franchise. It shows that people still care. And when people still care, that means people will buy. And when they think people will buy, that means they'll make new things. So that leads to sequels, reboots, and bigger investments. The remake isn't ending like a stamp on the franchise, like that's it, it's done, we made a remake and it's not going to come back again. It's often like a test and a gauge to see if they should make more of it, if they should bring it back. So before we move on, I just want to make something very clear though, and there's a very core distinction to be made here between a remaster and a remake, and why they serve two different purposes. A remaster is basically a polish. Better visuals, like higher resolution, smoother performance, but it's still the same game underneath. Same systems, same design, same experience, just cleaned up for modern audiences. A remake is a full rebuild. New engine, new assets, sometimes new mechanics even. Same ideas, but rebuilt for modern audiences with modern standards. So a remaster is talking about access. It's making sure people can still play these games today, and testing the waters to see how interested people are or will become. A remake is about creating something, making from something old to feel new again, right? It's taking something old and making it feel like it belongs in today's industry. And that's why remakes are such a bigger deal than remasters, because now you're not just preserving a game or reintroducing it to test interest. You're reintroducing it as something new that can actually compete with modern releases, a la Demon's Souls being the release for PS5. And lately, we're now seeing a lot more of that. Not just simple upgrades, but literally full reimaginings. So when you look at something like the Resident Evil 2 remakes, look at how they took something that was already perfect, but remade it for modern audiences and made it perfect again, with modern sensibilities and modern gameplay and modern gameplay standards. So when you actually look at all of this laid out plainly, remakes and remasters, are they actually a problem? Because at this point, I don't really see it that way. Remakes keep games from just disappearing over time. They bring back franchises that probably wouldn't have existed anymore. They give new players a chance to experience games they completely missed or would have never played otherwise. To me, this doesn't feel like going backwards or just weaponizing nostalgia. It feels like giving many games and franchises a future they would have never otherwise seen if modern audiences didn't get a chance to experience it. And a lot of the classic titles that made us fall in love with this hobby in the first place are titles that these people can go back and play now. This is how older games stay relevant instead of just being left behind. Silent Hill 2 Remake was huge. I see my young niece playing a franchise that's older than they are, and they would have never discovered it if it wasn't for a remake. And that makes me really happy to see, like, the next gen of gamers being able to experience a lot of the same games I did growing up, but made for them. I will end this off with saying, though, I do understand why some people get upset about all the new remakes and remasters we constantly see now. And I do think that a major problem we have in the industry, and especially in the AAA space, is a lack of innovation and new mechanics and new genres. Most new games kind of feel like a mix of things we've seen before. It's not often we get something weird and innovative like a Shadow of the Colossus or something like The Last Guardian, games with totally unique mechanics exclusive to them. And I'd like to see more of that, and not just remakes, obviously. We still need new games and ideas pushing things forward. There has to be a balance, but for now, I really don't see this as an issue. And honestly, I don't really see it as a problem. Like, yeah, people complain about remakes all the time, but what's the alternative? Just let these games die? Let entire franchises just disappear because they're stuck on old consoles that nobody owns anymore? That doesn't really make sense to me. There's a ton of games I would have never touched again without a remake or remaster. Not because I didn't want to play them, but just because I wasn't going to go back and deal with all the outdated stuff, drag out my old consoles or have to emulate it. There's too many games nowadays for me to bother doing that or even have the thought to do so. And now those same games actually feel playable again. They feel relevant again. Some of them feel even better than they were before. So yeah, call it nostalgia if you want, but a lot of this is the only reason any of these franchises have a future or any kind of relevancy at all. As someone who a large majority of my favorite franchises and games were things that spawned back in the 90s and early 2000s, this whole resurgence of remakes and remasters has been nothing but positive for me, to be honest. And I hope I was kind of able to do a decent job in spotlighting exactly why they matter and why they're positive for the industry. I think it's a good place to end things here, so I'm just going to give you my final thought and a question. Think of your favorite game or franchise of all time. Now imagine it became irrelevant and went away and wasn't easily playable anymore. Wouldn't you want that game to get a remaster or a remake so all the new generations of gamers could experience what you did? Thinking about it like that, I think it becomes clear why they're a good thing. So let me know what franchise or game you guys think could benefit from a remaster or remake and see that whole treatment. Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see what you guys come up with. And as usual, thank you for choosing to spend your time with me today. Leave the video a like or a hype or any of that nonsense, whatever's going to help push it forward. I really appreciate all that. And that's it. Thanks. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers. I'm out.